Hello, welcome to the 10th video of PrimeWorld's Photoshop tutorials, and in today's video we are going to be looking at the brush tool, pencil tool, color replacement tool, and the mixer brush tool. So very quickly, let's start with the first one, which is the brush tool. So left clicking on it, we select it, and there are some things you need to understand. This is the properties bar for the brush tool. So the first thing is to choose the kind of brush you want. Photoshop by default have several brushes installed, but you can also install your own custom brushes online, okay? And these are some that I installed online, okay? So let's say we want to choose this soft edge brush, okay? Let's see how the soft edge brush looks like. So setting my color to yellow, okay? I just paint. Okay, let me create a different layer for it so that we keep this background layer untouched, okay? So let me create a new layer and let me just click, and this is how it looks like, okay? I just clicked once and this is how it looks like. If I'm to use a hard brush, the one that has hard edges, that's the difference. Let's see the difference now. And I click, this is how it looks like, okay? Now in this properties bar, there are some things we need to understand. The first one is this mode. The second one, rather, apart from this one, is this mode. You can change it to any mode you want and it will give you its effect. For instance, if I change it to dissolve now and I click, take note of how dissolve looks like. If I use a soft brush and I click, look at the dissolve effect, okay, it's having. And all these other ones have their different effects. You can check them out and see. Now the opacity is simply the visibility. How visible do you want your brush to be? So if it's at 100%, it's 100% visible. If I reduce it, the opacity, and I click, look at, you see that this one is dimmer than this, okay? So this is for the opacity, okay? The flow is similar to opacity. It's just that with flow, take for instance, let me increase the opacity and let me reduce this flow to, let's say, 36%. When I click on it and I brush on it again, you see that the value increase it until it's 100%. You see that? So that's the thing with flow. It increases as you keep pressing on the same spot, okay? Now, apart from this properties bar, there's also another place for brushes that you really need to know of, okay? Let me go ahead and let me just delete this layer and put a new layer. Now it's under this icon called brush, okay? Now by default, usually Photoshop has this brush icon fitted here, but in case yours is not fitted here, you just need to go to window and left click on the brush option and also the brush presets option. The icon will show up here, okay? Mine is already showing, so I click on this brush option, and this brush option enables me to do a lot of settings to my brush. So if I go to the first one, so left click on the first one that says brush tips shape, it shows this up, this becomes active. Now this brush is not active except you are active on a brush. So if I'm active on another image, another tool rather, the brush and brush presets icon will not be active. So now this option here is another way to pick the kind of brush you are looking for, okay? Now this one is the size similar to this place, so you can specify the size of your brush here. Now here you can specify the angle, that is the roundness of your brush, whether you want it bent at 100%. If I click now, let me increase this, okay, let me increase the flow. If I click now, this is how it looks like. If I bend it, take note, if I bend it, this is how it looks like. It looks curved. So that's what the roundness does for you. It helps you adjust the angle of the the brush. Now the hardness, as the name implies, at 0% it has soft edges. If I increase it to 100%, you see that the edges will be very sharp, and in between you see that the edges will be between sharp and blurry. Now this is for spacing. Take note of this window here. As I increase the spacing, this is how it looks like. When my spacing is at 1%, okay, if I click and drag, this is how my brush looks like. Take note. If I click and drag, this is how my brush looks like. But if I increase my spacing, if I increase my spacing, okay, to this, look at how it's spacing up. If I click and drag, I'm clicking and dragging, but this is how it looks like now, because I've increased my spacing. Okay, yeah. So apart from this brush tip shape, you can also adjust certain things. If you go to shape dynamics, left click on it, you can adjust the size jitter. So size jitter is, it will be adjusting the size, putting variations in the size of your brush. So if I click and drag, you see that some will be large, some will be smaller. This is what size jitter does for you. Okay, and I can change the minimum diameter, the angle jitter, the roundness jitter. Like for the roundness jitter now, if I increase it, you see that some will be curved, will be bent, some will be, you see some are bending, some are up, are straight, some are bending. So that's what the roundness jitter does for you. So if you tweak all those options, you can see what they do. Now we can move to scattering now. So if I left click on scattering, this box opens. Now what if you were working on a project where you just want to click once and the brush appears everywhere? This scattering is very useful for that, instead of just clicking here and there, you know. So you just increase the scattering, and take note of this window. If you increase the scattering, okay, and if I just click and drag, you see that the brush scatters everywhere. It gives you this cool random effect depending on how you place your scattering, you know, your scattering and spacing. It just gives you this cool random effect, scattering of the brush. Okay, so the next most important one that I want to look at, that most people use and I actually use, is the transfer. Okay, the transfer is also useful because there's this effect it gives. If you tweak the opacity jitter, it makes some text. Let me reduce the scattering of this so that we can see it more. If you, let me go back to transfer. If you increase the opacity jitter, it makes some circles less visible than others, and this is a very neat effect that, you know, people use a lot. Okay, so some will be more visible than others, okay, when you increase the opacity jitter. So these are the main, the more or less the main brush presets that you can apply. You can go ahead and try all these other options, like increasing, adding noise to your uh, brush, okay, and color dynamics, just working with foreground and background color jitter. So just trying it out. Let me change the background to red. Let me see. So let's see. Okay, so you can try this out, but the major ones I've taught you are this brush tip shape dynamics, scattering, transfer. Okay, so this is more or less what you can majorly what you can do with the brush tool. So let's go ahead and move to the next tool, which is the pencil tool. So it's very self-explanatory, as the name implies. Okay, pencil tool. So if you just want to draw randomly, like you will with a normal pencil, you use the pencil tool. Okay, you just use the pencil tool, and you can use it to just draw random image and text. Okay, and just like the pencil, the brush tool, it also has opacity settings and mode settings. So you can adjust the opacity and mode there. Okay, so this is what the pencil tool is used for. Okay, yeah. So now the next one we want to look at is the color replacement tool, and I have an image here that we can use to, you know, practice the color replacement tool. Now what if you have an image where you want to change the color, its color, to another color, the color of a surface to another color? For instance, what if we wanted to change this red dot to green dot? That is where this color replacement tool is very useful. So when I go ahead and choose green now, I can come to, just increase the size by pressing right bracket. I can come to the uh, area where I want to change to green and just paint it with a green color. Okay, and it goes ahead to paint it with a green color. Okay, now for this place that has light, you can just persist in painting the green color there, and it will eventually paint it with the green color. Just keep rubbing your brush there. Okay, now what if, now there's something you need to understand here. Now if you want to paint with a vivid color, like a very bright color, you may have an issue. Take for instance, if I want to paint with yellow now, okay, take note of the yellow color. Look at how bright the yellow is. The current color is yellow, but if I come here and paint, look at how dull it looks like. So when you are replacing a color, when you are using color replacement tool to replace vivid color, it doesn't really do a very good job. But there's a way around it. What you need to do, let me undo this. You first need to change this mode here to luminosity. This is if you want to paint with vivid color. Change it to luminosity. Now come here and pick a bright color, let's say a light gray, a very light gray or white. Okay, then go ahead and paint, carefully around the place where you want to replace the color, so that we can just lighten it up. Okay, we can just lighten it up more. So after you've lightened it up like this, you can go ahead and change it back to color, then pick the yellow color or the vivid color you were intending to paint, then just paint it, okay, carefully around it, and it gives you the yellow you are looking for. So this is what you do when you want to paint vivid colors. Okay, now having done this, let's go ahead and look at the last tool, which is the mixer brush tool. And this is quite a useful tool, particularly when you want to blend your brush with your image. Okay, when you want your brush to have similar colors with your image and you want it to have multiple colors. So let's say we have this image here, and let me create a separate layer for it. So I'm on the mixer brush tool now. Okay, no, I'll select the mixer brush tool now, and it's currently set to yellow. Now if I leave this place on tick, sample all layers, and I just press yellow, it just paints it like a regular brush. But don't be deceived, you can do more than just painting regular yellow. Let me undo this. If I tick this brush called sample all layer, take note of what it does. If I click now, look at what it's doing. It's sampling the colors of the image below my layer. Okay, I'm painting, a mixture of those images. Like if I paint around here, you see what is painting there. It's painting a mixture of those images on the layer. Okay, so this is one thing. That's why it's called mixer brush. So you can see the dynamic colors it's bringing out. Okay, and take note, it's on its separate layer. I can move this separate from my image below. So this is what happens when you choose sample all layers. Now let me undo this, And there's something I also need to show you. You can also, let's remove the sample layers now. You can also sample a point. You can pick a source point of your image. Let's say I wanted my brush to have a mixture of colors around this place. So I need to, all I need to do is press Alt. When I press Alt, I left click. Now, okay, before I do this, I need to be active on the image where I want to sample the colors. I was active on this empty image, so nothing happened here, around here. Okay, so I need to be active here. Then go to the portion where I want to, the source point. I press Alt and left click. Now, take note of what showed up here. You can see that it is showing this color as the what will be mixed, the source point. So if I go to my empty layer now and I click and drag, do you see what is doing? Is creating a mixture of, let me reduce this a bit. Is creating a mixture of the the source point which I selected. Okay, so this is majorly what you use the mixer brush to do. And you can tweak these settings. You can change the load to 100% and they have their effects. Like the mix is telling you the degree at which the various colors will be mixed together. Okay, so yeah, so I could just decide to, let's say, using the eraser tool now. Where's the eraser tool? The eraser tool, I can decide to just clean off some points. Okay, and just imagine this to be the earth having octopus tails. You get the idea. Okay, you can just imagine the earth having octopus tails. Let me see if I can clean these areas. Okay, maybe I can clean these areas. So yeah, so but this is more or less what the mixer tool, you can do with the mixer tool. So that's about it. We've learned about the different brush tools, including the pencil tool, and what they do. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next